The annotator on Nexus is a great way to rapidly label all of your images and other valuable data, whether it's through manual tools or intelligent tools that rapidly speed up that manual labeling process. The first part of this is obviously how do we get to the annotator? So one way is navigating to the dataset page and then scrolling to the asset that you want to annotate and then double-clicking on that asset. Once we've double-clicked in, you'll be able to see the asset as well as its relevant labels. The other way that you can navigate to the annotator is by directly selecting the annotator on the left sidebar. This will bring you to the annotator without any asset selected, and then we can use this section at the bottom, the asset scroll bar, to select the preferred asset that you want to view. So as you can see, we can scroll through and select all of the available assets within our project. And once we've selected an asset, it will display the asset and its labels on the screen above. We have a few different filters for this asset bar. So as you can see, we can filter by file name. We can also use other more advanced filters, such as status management. We can show unassigned assets. We can show assets assigned to individual users. We can also filter by specific asset groups. So for example, we might select none in the status management, and this would bring up the only image in the dataset, which is not labeled, which can be selected as such. So on the annotator, as you can see, we can click and drag on the canvas. We can also zoom in using the scroll wheel. And on the bottom right, we can also select to rescale the image. Let's now navigate to an image that contains annotations, such as this one right here. So as you can see, I can click and drag on the canvas to move it around. I can zoom in with the scroll wheel. And finally, we can rescale by selecting that bottom right button. I've pressed L here to show all the labels on screen, as well as H to hide all the labels. So this can give you a few different options for how you want to view the annotations. On the top left, you can see more information on all the different hotkeys that we provide to help speed up that labeling process. On the bottom right, we have settings for this annotation canvas. So you can toggle the annotation outline, which will show or hide that outline around each annotation. Also modify the annotation opacity to either make the annotations more transparent or more opaque, depending on what's needed to be able to see the image in the background. We can also adjust image settings as well. So this will apply transformations to the base image just for rendering purposes, such as altering the brightness. We can also alter contrast as well and saturation. All these three different options are contextually used to either enhance or reduce certain features to either enable the manual annotator to better understand the contents of the image, or even our intelligent tools as well. Next, we have in our advanced options, we also have various different types of crops. This will allow you to view the image as a model might see it. So it will downsize the quality of the image to what's displayed, such as the 640 by 640 crop, which is now showing a more downscaled version, which is more pixelated. One can also select different color maps. This can be relevant for other types of imagery, such as heat maps and things like this, in order to make certain areas of the image brighter or more significant. This is especially useful for images that are taken in grayscale, as this can bring a little bit more color and bring out certain features in the image. Finally, we also have grid. This grid feature allows you to focus on individual sections of an image. So in this case, we've selected a grid size of 3, which creates a 3 by 3 array on the image. And you can see there are now 9 equal subsections that we can individually focus on. This is particularly useful for when we use intelligent tools, as this will allow tools like IntelliBrush to focus on individual sections of an image. The reason why you might want to use grid is for really large images, such that they are all subsectioned off and you can really focus on the individual crops. Additionally, you can also modify the frame size of how much space the canvas is taking and adjust it to your preferences. On the bottom right, you can see the tag menu, which shows all the different class tags that are available for alteration and labeling, as well as the objects menu on the right of that, which shows all the objects existing in the image currently. So as you can see, ball 1, ball 2, and you can use the eye symbol to hide or show these objects as needed. So this can help with objects that overlap, which may obscure your ability to view certain things. You can also edit these tags. So if you select the pencil button, as I did just now, you can go to this tag management menu where you can add new labels by typing them in and then pressing enter and then saving those tags. You can even modify current tags by clicking and renaming them. Above that is our comment tool. This allows you to interact with other annotators who might be working on the same project. So by selecting the add comments button, you can add a comment and then type a comment in that will be visible to other annotators who click in on this image. You can also add individual users, so this will directly notify that user that you've selected. So you can see the list of people who have access to this project, and you can add any one of these people. Once you've made that comment, it will now be visible, and users who navigate to the image will now be able to see it, reply to it in the thread, or even resolve it with that green check mark. You yourself can hide or view the comments in order to either show them, to see and review the comments, or hide them in case they're interfering with your annotation efforts. Now I'm going to navigate to that empty image that we found earlier using the filter by status. So first, when getting started with labeling objects, what we want to do is select the appropriate tag that we're going to label with, as well as select the annotation tool that we're going to use. The way we select what annotation tool to use is based on the context of your computer vision use case. So here I'm showing a few different basic annotation tools such as the rectangle, polygon, paintbrush, free draw. Rectangle would be more well suited towards object detection projects, whereas polygon, paintbrush, free draw, and perhaps IntelliBrush would be better suited for segmentation tasks where the mask detail is needed. So here I've used the rectangle tool and clicked and dragged around the object, which is a ball. And now I created a bounding box around this ball. And as you can see, once it's been created, I can also modify it by clicking and dragging. I can also delete the object by selecting the delete button at the bottom right, and then selecting the annotation to delete it. With the polygon tool, you can click each vertice and then create a shape that way, and be sure to connect the final vertices once you're done to complete the object. With the paintbrush tool, you essentially click and drag with this paintbrush and draw the outline of the object that you're trying to cover, and you can increase and decrease the radius as you see fit. You can also use the erase and draw mode to erase away irrelevant areas that you've perhaps overdrawn on. Finally, we also have the free draw tool, which you draw a pen-like tool around the object that you're trying to outline, and it will automatically fill the area that you've drawn within the loop that you've created. As you can see, once the polygon has been created, you can always select the polygon again and adjust it after if needed. Besides our manual tools, we also have a suite of intelligent tools, which we will go over more in other videos. For now, as you can see, with just a few clicks, you're able to generate a highly accurate mask annotation that can accurately depict the object that you're trying to annotate. Finally, you can also set assets as background. And what this will do is say that the whole asset does not contain any relevant objects. This can be useful for balancing out a dataset so that you don't always have objects in an asset, especially in use cases in which objects may not always appear in images. And this will help train your model to also be okay with not making any valid detections especially when there are no relevant objects in an image. When you have created annotations and have existing annotations, you can also right-click them and do a variety of manipulations on them. As you can see, when I've right-clicked there, I'm able to change the class, subtract, merge, bringing the object forward, backward, adding comments, as we just saw, viewing attributes if you added any custom attributes to the tag. And all of these things can help to change the way that you're viewing the annotation, as well as modify the annotation itself. I'll now create an example in which these tools and operations might be useful. So let's say we have another very large annotation of the ground, as I'm drawing rather sloppily here. And let's say that these two objects overlap. Then we have a number of operations that we might perform in order to better view the different annotations, as well as control how they interact with each other. One other small tidbit to note is that with the polygon version of our annotator, we don't support holes within our annotation. So if you leave a hole within the annotation that you've drawn, we will always autofill it for you, unless you use our bitmask project. So here I'm bringing objects backward and forward, and just like a canvas that you would have on Photoshop or any other image editing software, you're able to bring objects forward and backward to have them either overlap with each other in different ways, such that one object is behind another. In this case, since the ground is completely overlapping with the player, we would want to have the player in front in order to be able to select both objects. Let's say I modify the ground annotation now such that it only partially overlaps with the football player object in such a way that we might want to make sure that actually these annotations don't overlap with each other. Then we can use the subtract tool, which will subtract the football player's outline from the ground annotator object. And this makes sure that none of the annotations actually overlap with each other. This is important especially for semantic segmentation tasks in which every pixel in the project has to be annotated, but it can be difficult to maintain that unless we provide a tool to do that. And now you can see with the merge tool as well that we're able to entirely merge two annotations as well seamlessly, such that we create one object if that might be necessary. The final small tidbit that I want to show is also that you can actually reverse any operations that you've done by selecting Ctrl-Z, like in any other word processor. This will allow you to revert any of the changes you've made. Once you've finished annotating an object or annotating the entire asset, you're also able to change the status of the asset in the top right. And as you can see, what I've done is opt to change this asset to annotated. We can then send this along to the next stage of its annotation process.